In the UK, over 40,000 people are given a blood cancer diagnosis every year. Blood cancer can affect any of us, old and young. And while a diagnosis is devastating, there is hope. This programme will look at the work being done to provide clinical trials, improve treatments and raise awareness, all which help to provide better patient outcomes. I'm Simon Thomas. Welcome to This is Blood Cancer, a programme by Blood Cancer UK and ITM Productions. Blood Cancer UK have been fundraising since 1960 and to date have invested over £500 million in research. And while that has led to breakthroughs in treatment, there is still some way to go as blood cancer still sadly claims 15,000 lives a year. I'm joined now by Blood Cancer UK's CEO, Gemma Peters. Gemma, welcome. Firstly, let's go right back to basics. What exactly is blood cancer?
Blood cancer is lots of different types of cancers. People often know leukemia as a type of blood cancer. They might not know lymphoma or myeloma, and there are others as well. And they're all, what they've got in common is that they're when something goes wrong in your blood cells or your immune cells and they become cancerous. So that's what blood cancer is.
And Gemma, when we think of other cancers like breast cancer or prostate cancer in men in recent years, there's been a vast change in awareness around those types of cancer. And that's a really, really good thing. But when it comes to blood cancer, why is there so much less awareness?
It's such a good question. You would think the third biggest cancer killer in the country, it's the fifth most common cancer in the country, and yet awareness is really frighteningly low. Like half of adults in the UK can't name a single blood cancer symptom. And the reasons for it, I think, are complicated. I think some of it is to do with the fact it's not like a lump that you can cut out, which I think is what we associate with other types of cancer. It's a little bit more complicated than that. And I think the symptoms, there's more complexity in the symptoms. So it's a set of symptoms which would tell someone that they have blood cancer as opposed to a single lump that they could go and get checked out.
Gemma, why does blood cancer typically take longer to diagnose than other types of cancer? And what are the implications of that?
Yes, it takes a lot longer, and that's a massive issue for us as an organisation. So it takes a quarter of people going to see their GP 3 to 5 times before they get a diagnosis. And if you imagine, there are gaps between each of those visits. So that adds in a lot of time before people can start treatment. And what that means is when they get to treatment, there can be fewer options for them, and that ultimately affects survival. So we're really focused on trying to get people diagnosed early, because that, at the end of the day, will save lives. And the reasons for it are complicated. I think it's a bit about public awareness. So I think when people see symptoms like weight loss or unexplained bruising, or they get night sweats, they don't necessarily think that could be blood cancer, and so they don't necessarily go to the GP and say that, or they don't connect the dots between a few different symptoms. And then when someone arrives at the GP and presents with symptoms, because blood cancer can affect people of any age, then the person sitting in front of the GP doesn't necessarily look like the sort of person that would have cancer. And so I think that can slow down the process. And we've really got to sort that out if we're going to save more lives.
And quite a number of people believe that blood cancer is genetic, but it isn't. So what makes people more susceptible than others?
Yes, you're right. So for almost everybody, it is something that is caused by mutations or abnormalities that are happening in people's DNA as they live and then they go through life. And there's nothing in your lifestyle that you could do about it, and it's not something that you're going to pass on. So that's really important that people understand that.
And Gemma, a huge part of Blood Cancer UK is the fundraising for research. In terms of success stories, what have been the biggest? And what are you most excited about future-wise?
So, £500 million invested in research because of people fundraising up and down the country. It's amazing, isn't it? And there have been huge breakthroughs, not just here in the UK, but that have impacted all over the world in blood cancer treatment. So what would I pick out? Maybe the minimal residual disease test, which is a test that after treatment means we can see if there are cancer cells still circulating at a level that we were never able to see before. So that means we can carry on treating some people that we didn't realise needed to be carried on treating, and we can stop treating some other people. And the result of that is lives saved across all sorts of different blood cancers now, and it's used all over the world. So that is definitely one I'd pick out.
And future-wise, what are you most excited by?
This is such an exciting time in blood cancer research. I mean, there's so much hope on the horizon. So like, even 5 years ago, the idea of prevention in blood cancer is something I would never have talked about because it just felt so far away. And yet now we know there are changes that are happening in our cells maybe 10 years before a blood cancer develops that we might be able to target a test for or screen for and pick up. And then for the first time, we'll be able to talk about preventing blood cancer so no one ever got it, which is completely an amazing thing to think about.
Exciting times ahead. Gemma Peters, thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Clinical trials are an important way of developing or improving treatments for blood cancer. But finding and enrolling on a trial is complex and can be overwhelming. In this special report for Blood Cancer UK, we find out about the unique support service they provide to help navigate patients and their families through the entire process.
Ella was an absolutely incredible person. She was a really beautiful person inside out, and she just got an absolutely infectious love of life. She loved animals, she loved outdoors, she loved nature, she loved keeping fit, she loved good nutritious food, she loved travelling. She was a passionate artist and she graduated in 2019 from Newcastle University with a degree in fine art with the plan to spend the summer travelling in Colombia and then go down to London with her partner Connor. While she was there, she was diagnosed with Ph positive acute lymphoblastic leukemia. She was in ICU in Colombia for a week and then was transferred back to the UK where she had 2 years of unrelenting treatment. She was 22 when she was diagnosed. But despite all of that, her love of life didn't change. She lived every day with positivity. She always had hope.
After 70 rounds of chemotherapy and a range of standard and experimental treatments failed, Ella was given weeks, maybe months to live.
Kevin and I and Tasha and Connor couldn't and wouldn't accept the news. When, as a parent, when you're given that news, it's not something you can accept, you can believe, but we were determined to find something somewhere in the world that could at least give us hope.
Ella's parents and sister Tasha set about the complicated process of looking for a clinical trial for Ella to join.
Finding a clinical trial can be a confusing minefield, and most people don't realise that you do have the right to ask what clinical research is suitable for you. And yet, less than 30% of cancer patients say that they had clinical trials discussed with them.
That's why Blood Cancer UK have set up a service to help people navigate the process of finding and going through a trial. They called it the Clinical Trial Support Service, and it's the first of its kind in the UK.
There are a lot of things to think about when joining a clinical trial, and there are a lot of challenges. This is why we work with that patient to figure out what would be best for them and figure out what the benefits are versus the current treatment that they're on.
In 2011, Sarah was diagnosed with chronic lymphocytic leukemia. Several years later, she started a clinical trial, and the results were swift.
Before I started treatment, I had visibly enlarged glands in my neck, and within 4 days, the lumps were visibly reduced. It was kind of amazing to observe.
And what would you say to anyone who's thinking about doing a trial?
A clinical trial is very much worth exploring as an alternative to traditional treatment, especially with help and support of Blood Cancer UK Clinical Trial Support Service, and in consultation, obviously, with your oncologist. And I was lucky because it immediately worked for me and the benefits were enormous. And of course, it doesn't work for everyone, but it is definitely worth exploring.
For Helen and the team at Blood Cancer UK, clinical research is the only way to break new ground in improving therapies for people with cancer.
Clinical trials look at treatments that are brand new treatments. They look at treatments that we've already got in existence, and we need to make those treatments better for patients because some of them are still not good enough. And the other reason why clinical trials are so important is we also get to look at how we can actually stop blood cancers in the first place. So unless we have people involved in clinical trials, we cannot progress and we cannot find kinder, better treatments than what we currently have.
Eventually, after a complex process of trawling the world for trials, the Dawson family did find one in the US, and they approached Helen for support.
She really helped us navigate the whole world of clinical trials, which without that, we probably wouldn't have got off stage 1, because it was completely a new area for us.
Yes, that's something we can help you with.
Helen was on the phone constantly to me. If I wanted anything, she would be there. She also understood the human decisions, the agonising human decisions we were having to make, to talk through those about, was this the right thing to do for Ella? And she was a great sounding board on actually understanding those human issues.
The day came for the family to board the flight to America. But as they were leaving, they got the shattering news that Ella's cancer had got worse, and she was no longer able to join the trial.
And that was really cruel and really, really hard. And we knew at that point what that meant. That was the last hope gone. And unpacking Ella's suitcase was just so hard. Just a few weeks before she left us, we were sat as a family painting tiles, and we were all painting flowers and mountain scenes, and Ella painted a tile that said "Forever Grateful." And that's Ella. That's our beautiful Ella.
Research into blood cancer has led to some significant breakthroughs in the way in which it is treated. Blood Cancer UK is playing an important role in funding this research, which can lead to more successful procedures and results, benefiting its patients and making treatments such as CAR-T stem cell therapy more universal and accessible.
52-year-old Kavi meets his daughter for tea. Only a year ago, he was unsure he'd ever live precious moments like this again. In 2019, Kavi was diagnosed with stage 4 follicular lymphoma blood cancer.
I was a bit reluctant to tell my family because I didn't know how they would take it. Because I know my family. It took me 2 weeks just to take it from me to tell them.
After 6 rounds of chemotherapy, Kavi's cancer came back.
It was disappointing, but this didn't let me down. I said, don't give up now, because if I give up, what will gonna happen to me? If I'm not here, who's gonna look after my family?
Kavi was invited to join a clinical trial and offered a new type of cancer treatment known as CAR-T therapy. Blood Cancer UK were involved in early research to find this new treatment, which is now being used for some blood cancers.
It was hard to make this decision. All my family was telling me, don't go for it, because they don't know the outcome yet. But me, I said, no, I'm gonna take the chance, I'm gonna do it.
CAR-T therapy works by removing some T cells from the blood, cells which help to fight infection and disease. In the lab, experts genetically modify the T cells to make them better at finding and killing cancer cells. Then they put them back into the patient's blood to fight the cancer. The treatment started as a last-ditch hope for children with leukemia. It's now available for other types of blood cancer too, and it's also being trialled for solid tumours like lung cancers. Even better, scientists are taking this research a step further. For patients who can't supply their own blood cells, there are clinical trials to use blood donors for the genome editing.
Think of it as small, tiny little molecular scissors that can snip genes in a very precise way, and we use that to do 2 things. Firstly, we use it to disarm the cells so they're not going to cause side effects. Secondly, the cells will become invisible to some of the chemotherapy drugs we're going to use. And then the final thing we do is we add in the CAR receptor. Remember, CAR stands for chimeric antigen receptor, and that's the targeting device in the cells that allows them to pick out leukemia when they're back in the body.
2 weeks before his CAR-T treatment was supposed to finish, Kav was given some news.
I was on remission, cancer-free.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. It's like a miracle. I got 3 kids, 2 daughters and a son, and they are lovely, marvelous. They thought that I was joking with them.
It's these kinds of breakthroughs that drive the teams at Blood Cancer UK to continue investing in cancer research.
Blood Cancer UK has been around since 1960. It was started by a family who lost their daughter to leukemia. Since then, they have funded over £500 million worth of research, which has revolutionised the way we treat blood cancer today.
If you imagine cancer research as a comet flying through the sky, then the very bright front end of that comet is blood cancer research.
Blood Cancer UK's support in funding the research of scientists like Professor Chris Bunce has not only helped improve our understanding of blood cancer, but also the development of tests and treatments such as chemotherapy that can help people with other types of cancer too.
One of the fundamental reasons is that we can get at blood quite readily, so I could persuade you, I'm sure, to give me some blood from my experiments. I might even, if I spent a bit longer, persuade you to give me some bone marrow from my experiments. If I was to ask you for a slice of your brain or a bit of your pancreas, you might not be so willing to give it to me. So the very fact that the tissue is accessible allows us to do more experiments, more research, and the research that's been funded by Blood Cancer UK has been instrumental in this, and so we can get a much deeper understanding of blood cancers than we can many others. So it's a rich hunting ground for new therapies for cancer in general.
Many of those new therapies increasingly involve tailoring the treatment to the individual person.
So the exciting thing now, I think, is that via the research that Blood Cancer UK funds, we can really understand the nuts and bolts of a person's individual cancer. And that allows us, if you like, to get the right spanner off the shelf to personalise medicine, so everybody gets the best medicine for themselves.
Blood Cancer UK is doing lots of research. We have to have more people get involved in Blood Cancer UK, just to help each other in this long journey. Every day is a new day for me, and without the CAR T-cell, I wouldn't have been like I am today.
Kavi feels like he's been given a second chance at life, and for that, he and his family are forever grateful.
For many people with blood cancer, a stem cell transplant is their last chance of survival. Anthony Nolan is a charity that matches selfless stem cell donors with people in need of life-saving treatments, while also supporting them medically, emotionally and financially at every stage of the transplant process and beyond.
I was only 25, just had a baby, not long been married. It was just the beginning of my life.
Then Diana Odhiambo was diagnosed with blood cancer.
It was a shock. It was a great deal of shock. I remember just praying. That's all that made sense to me at the time.
Diana began 2 years of chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and the search for a stem cell donor. There's just a 1 in 4 chance that a sibling will be a match, so many patients rely on the Anthony Nolan Register to find a donor from outside their family. Fortunately for Diana, her brother was a match and critical life-saving treatment began.
That came with a lot of challenges. I had a few times where I reacted badly to steroids. I had infection all over my body. There was just so many different things that was going wrong that at some point I think I gave up, but my sister reminded me that you're fighting for not just you, but you've got a son as well that needs you. You need to stay positive. And that kept me going.
Diana was supported by Anthony Nolan. The charity makes life-saving connections between patients in need of stem cells and donors ready to give theirs. Donors like Rinesh, who joined the Anthony Nolan Register 15 years ago and was recently called on to save the life of someone he'd never met.
Once I was notified I might be a match, the process from then onwards to the donation was really straightforward. And I had to have a couple of tests, just an X-ray to see if my lungs were okay and some further blood tests. and that was probably about 2 or 3 weeks before the donation was set, the date was set.
Anthony Nolan supported Rinesh through his donation.
I think after the donation, it really began to sink in. So, yeah, it's a little overwhelming emotionally, where you think that I've not had to do anything really. I just turned up to hospital and had, a bone marrow donation, but I've given somebody the chance, the gift of life and the possibility to spend more time with their friends and family and loved ones, and it didn't cost me anything. So it's a really satisfying feeling.
We're doing groundbreaking research at Anthony Nolan, and we're providing life-saving stem cells for 4 people every single day. And it's really important to have as many donors as possible on the Anthony Nolan register, and we need young and fit, particularly men, to join the register. We're also looking to increase the numbers of people from ethnic minorities to give everybody that equal chance of life.
Henny Braund is Anthony Nolan's chief executive. She says the charity gives patients their greatest chance of survival.
For patients like Diana, the support that Anthony Nolan is able to provide, whether it's the clinical nurse specialist within the hospital or psychological support, we also provide helplines and peer support and financial support if people need it. And then we also undertake research to ensure that all transplants are successful, that we improve survival rates, and that patients can live and thrive and really have a whole full life to look forward to.
Diana is looking forward to hers.
It's given me a new lease of life. It has given me time with my son, the ability to wake up and not worry that cancer is an immediate risk that I have to factor in every morning. It's just the difference to me being able to try and live a normal life again.
Blood cancer typically takes longer to diagnose than other cancers, and a later diagnosis means later start to treatment. Medical technology company BD invests in research and innovations that aim to help blood cancer patients from early detection through to treatment and monitoring, supporting at every stage of their journey.
The appliance of science. At this hub in Berkshire, specialist teams are helping push the boundaries of our knowledge and understanding of blood cancer. Someone in the UK is diagnosed with blood cancer every 13 minutes. That's 110 people per day, 40,000 people every year. And 250,000 people are living with blood cancer, which is caused by blood cells behaving abnormally. Here they're using cutting-edge science and technology to help researchers and hospitals to advance what we know about blood cancer and how to manage life with the disease.
If you think about the survivability rate for blood cancer, it's actually increasing higher than any of the other most common cancers out there. People are ultimately living longer lives with blood cancer because of these amazing breakthroughs that are occurring, that are ultimately turn into medicines and turn into treatments that are available to you and I.
BD says that by understanding blood cancer from diagnosis through to how treatments like chemotherapy are delivered and monitoring for how well the treatment is working, patients' lives can be improved.
These high-tech machines are the latest diagnostic tools. Blood samples are put in here. The machine analyses them, and the data it generates can be used by clinicians to help determine the types of blood cancers patients have.
For patients, diagnosis marks the beginning of a journey that could last for many years, depending on the type of blood cancer they have. Clinicians helping patients on the journey in the NHS are looking for technological innovations that will, among other things, speed up lab processes, increase the accuracy of test results, and reduce the time they have to wait to get data about patients' blood cancer. Faster, more accurate, automated machines in the lab enable both clinicians and patients to make the most informed decisions about their care, quicker than if they used manual processes.
Through helping hospitals to improve laboratory efficiency, BD could help the NHS tackle the cancer backlog that we're currently experiencing.
Using automation doesn't just provide standardised data for clinicians. Here, an automatic dispensing machine is making up a patient prescription. Using this machine can cut the time patients spend waiting to receive prescriptions.
Patients in a non-automated environment would have to wait a long time because every piece of information has to be handed on. By having a software-enabled or digitalised automated system, that data transfer happens securely. So when the nurse gets the bag with the label on it, with the barcode, and the patient sits there with their barcode, the nurse will match the bag to the patient using that barcode. So it helps patients because they know they're getting the right drug at the right dose at the right time.
Helping to reduce errors is one of the driving forces behind many of BD's innovations.
Blood cancer is just one example of where we can help health systems. We've talked about the research, diagnosis and treatment. But if you look across all of BD's solutions, I guess 3 areas of focus for us. Patient safety. We can help improve the safety of healthcare workers, avoiding sharps injuries, for example. And both those, patient safety, healthcare worker safety, combined with our automation systems, help improve efficiency.
The UK scientific community plays a major role in advancing our knowledge of cancer and its treatments.
BD is developing innovative solutions through research from discovery to the translational space. And all of that insight is going to be able to help underpin the next generation of technology, which will ultimately be able to help advance the world of health.
Inequalities have always existed in cancer care, but have too often been ignored. Over 375,000 people across the UK every year are facing a cancer diagnosis, and half of us will face the prospect of a cancer diagnosis in our lifetime. Yet experiences of care can differ widely. Gilead Sciences are working to reduce this health inequality in cancer to give patients the best possible outcome, no matter what their circumstances.
Stuart has blood cancer, chronic myeloid leukemia. It's incurable, but daily medication keeps it under control. When diagnosed at age just 29, Stuart quickly found being gay and non-binary made finding help and information much more difficult.
One of the things that's difficult is knowing who to take with you to appointments, and especially when you're queer, there's sometimes that fear of, can I take this partner into the appointment? Will I be respected as such? And the other thing is also, by extension, wanting to talk about your personal life, your intimate life, sex life, etc., and impacts. And especially in those points, my clinicians just weren't really comfortable with those conversations or had the knowledge.
When it comes to blood cancer care, it's not a level playing field. Many minority groups face poorer outcomes and report poorer experiences of cancer services. Where you live, the colour of your skin, your sexual orientation and gender can all impact the care you receive. And NHS research shows it costs lives. In one type of blood cancer, for those living in the most deprived areas, just over 55% will be alive after 5 years, versus over 63% in more affluent areas. That's almost an 8% difference.
I think we're seeing the gap widen across the country. We're starting to see that not everyone has the same access to the latest innovative treatments, the latest, the high quality patient information. But that shouldn't happen. It shouldn't depend on where you live. Some people are worried that they'll get discriminated against if they come into healthcare services, and other people aren't aware that those services are there and available to them, or the information about those services isn't necessarily accessible enough due to all sorts of protected characteristics. It might be literacy, it might be not having English as your first language, it could be your age, it could be your gender. Any number of reasons can make healthcare services less accessible to some people in our society.
Stuart set up a national charity to help those in the LGBTIQ+ community living with cancer. Live Through This offers online information for patients, educates healthcare workers and creates bespoke campaigns to better protect the community.
We've worked with Macmillan to create pages for the website, and I've just managed to get them to confirm they'll put it into press. So it's really going to be making these differences so people can feel seen in these spaces and they can find information that is directly for them.
Lymphoma is the most common type of blood cancer. Dallas worked as a nurse in the NHS for 26 years before joining the charity sector. Part of her charity's work is to help healthcare professionals be more inclusive.
It's about asking the right questions as well. So, what pronouns would you prefer me to use today? How would you like me to address you during our session? Who are those people that are close to you? So steering away from, are you married? Do you have children? And those sorts of questions, I think, and allowing that conversation to organically grow as the trust is formed.
Dallas and Stewart's charities are supported by pharmaceutical companies Gilead and Kite. They work in partnership with the NHS, government, academia, industry and charities.
As well as supporting the national charities, we also really need to support grassroots charities. I think they've got such expertise and knowledge from the patients and communities that they serve. So it's really critical that we give them the space, the resources to really help them get their messages across, to give them access to different platforms, to make sure that their voices are heard.
Stewart was originally a tattoo artist, but the cancer diagnosis drew Stewart to another way of life. So you seem to be enjoying life, you're very happy?
Yeah, I think it is lemons into lemonade. It's this aspect of, I think the other way I describe it really actually is, I tried to sort of move away from cancer for quite a while and sort of just have this sort of normal life and hold on to the previous life I had. And then I realised it's incurable. It's not going anywhere, so I have to lean in and I have to make a difference and I have to try and figure out a way that I can live with this. And that's how the charity came about.
Improving outcomes for blood cancer patients requires a specialist, multidisciplinary approach. HCA Healthcare UK's team of hemato-oncology experts provide patient-centred care, from initial diagnosis to treatment and aftercare for all blood cancers at their brand new state-of-the-art facility, HCA UK, at University College Hospital.
Around 40,000 people are diagnosed with blood cancer each year in the UK. It's our third biggest cancer killer. But huge progress through the last few decades, particularly in personalised medicine, means it's likely to lead the direction of treatment for many other cancers over the next 10 to 20 years, thanks to revolutionary new therapies. Professor Anthony Goldstone was one of the first people to perform a bone marrow transplant at University College Hospital, London, nearly 50 years ago. He became its medical director and, decades later, assumed a similar position at private healthcare provider HCA Healthcare UK, supporting strategic leadership of its cancer services, including this brand new facility in central London, run in partnership with UCH. Since the 70s, he's seen things change immeasurably for his patients.
When I first came here as a consultant in 1976, things were very bleak for the adult patient with leukemia. Treatment was complicated, outcomes were poor, and in many cases the question was whether to treat this patient at all. But there's been an enormous change in 40 odd years. We now have specialist units, specially trained doctors, highly trained doctors and nurses trained to the very highest level. We can offer a variety of therapies with chemotherapy, immunotherapy, transplantation, CAR T-cell therapy, and we can offer something to almost every patient and give them some benefit and cure a great many more than we could 40 years ago.
Whilst accessing the best that medicine can offer is essential for blood cancer patients, an integrative approach is also integral to their experience.
Hey, friend.
For Sarah Kirkness, a specialist cancer nurse, supporting patients going through treatment and beyond became a personal passion after her father experienced blood cancer. In most instances, Sarah is the first point of contact for new patients, understanding their individual needs and those of their loved ones. The holistic approach is really important as well, isn't it? Tell us about that.
The holistic approach is really, really important, and it's at the heart of what I do. We know how overwhelming it is for patients to receive a cancer diagnosis, so we very, very quickly have to get to know that person and their family and carers to understand how we can best support them through their journey. So whether that's through understanding their childcare needs, whether it's wedding anniversaries or holidays or sons' graduations, all of that is really important to know and understand to build that relationship, but also to factor the treatment into their lives so that we can make it as seamless and as easy as possible for them.
This is a new £27 million purpose-built private unit. It's a specialist service for complex cancers, from stem cell transplants to cellular therapies, and the most complex areas of medicine to support services such as psychology, complementary therapies, dietetics and physiotherapy. It means the team here can treat the whole patient for blood and other cancers, leading to optimal outcomes.
It's amazing that we have this unit because we can deliver complex treatment in our patients. So considering all these advances in molecular biology, we can now give treatments, what we call targeted therapies, where we can specifically target the molecular abnormality. At the same time, we can incorporate monoclonal antibodies, again targeting specifically the cancer cells, or what we call immunotherapies. And what is immunotherapy? Essentially is to take advantage of our own cells, to educate some of these cells, and then to return the cells back to the patient in order to fight directly cancer.
HCA has been operating in the UK since 1995 and in partnership with UCH since 2006. In that time, significant progress has been made in this area thanks to revolutionary new treatments underpinned by the latest science.
HCA, working with UCLH, offers the best experience for the patient, both in the way they go through their treatment and also the technical infrastructure that supports them, that makes the treatment safest and easier to go through.
All of this is simply to improve the outcome and to improve survival. So we'll be able to treat more patients effectively, we'll be able to cure more patients or to prolong survival.
What's the best part about your job?
I think the best thing about being a clinical nurse specialist is that you get to know patients on such a personal level as well as a professional one. So you're always there as their guide through their treatment and through such a difficult time in their life, but you also are there in a very personal way as well. You get to know things about them that a lot of their friends wouldn't know, and you become a very trusted confidant, which is a huge privilege.
HCA UK at UCH, a CQC rated outstanding service with an expert team providing patient-centred care and the latest cancer treatments in a safe, specialist environment, partnering with one of the UK's leading teaching hospitals.
Combination treatments use 2 or more individual treatments at the same time, and for blood cancer patients that can deliver significant benefits. However, availability can be limited. Takeda is a pharmaceutical company that is collaborating with the life science community to address the access challenges for these treatments to improve patient outcomes.
Every year in the UK, more than 40,000 people are diagnosed with some form of blood cancer. For each of them and their families, knowing that there are increasing numbers of combination treatments offers hope. But the frustration is that access can be limited by cost-effectiveness barriers, even when one of the treatments is given away at zero price, an issue needing a multi-stakeholder approach.
These barriers include challenges with the existing health economic methods used to assess combination treatments, plus competition law considerations, as the medicines used in combination are often manufactured by different companies, says Takeda's Helen Taylor.
We have strict competition laws, which means that we can't collaborate as manufacturers and talk about price or any of those sensitive pieces of information. And often, because these treatments are clinically beneficial and prolong life, the initial treatment or the treatment that's already standard of care is combined with a new add-on treatment, and actually it prolongs the treatment path, but that means that you go over that willingness to pay threshold. There are a number of different stakeholders looking at different solutions. We're one of those. That's the goal that I see of a patient being able to access the treatment that's right for them at the right time and as quickly as possible.
To tackle these issues, Takeda has worked with a multi-stakeholder group to develop 2 white papers, offering a potential solution that can be implemented by the life sciences community.
The first white paper is an attribution of value white paper that allows a value to be given to each treatment in the combination. That means that hopefully, as a whole, it becomes more cost effective. The second white paper is a framework essentially to allow compliant discussions between industry, so to stay within competition law and talking about pricing.
So what difference would it make to patients if there were better access to these combination treatments?
In many cases, it could be the difference between life or death, and I know that sounds quite dramatic, but a lot of blood cancers are very aggressive. They evolve very quickly over time, so you need to get the most effective treatment into patients at diagnosis. And that can be challenging if that combination is not available and not approved for use.
Clinicians increasingly want to use these combination treatments, which have been proven in clinical trials, to offer their patients the best possible outcomes. So the need to overcome these access challenges is urgent.
There's often the combination treatments, the attack from different modes of action to the tumour that can overcome the resistance and lead to deeper remissions of the tumour. Patients that, for example, have a tumour that is very likely to be resistant to a single drug, we want predominantly to treat with combination therapies, maybe even combinations of 3 or 4 drugs. For example, in patients with what we call high-risk disease, where we need to overcome resistance that can be quite severe. So really finding a way to make these combination therapies accessible so that the patient benefits most is very important moving forward.
Takeda hope that their proposed solution and collaboration with the life science community will contribute to finding ways of solving the access challenges for combination treatments, ultimately allowing patients greater access to potentially life-extending and even life-saving treatments.
Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed the programme. For me and the team here at ITM Productions, goodbye.